Hello everyone, this is Drama Lab. Let the story begin. I remember the exact moment I first suspected the truth. It was the smell of bergamot tea drifting from Aunt Lavinia's shattered cup on the marble floor, sharp, citrus, almost medicinal, that made the memory slice open. That scent should have belonged to Mother, not to the woman who now wore her rings. My name is Serafina Vale. To the world I was the reckless second daughter of a shipping dynasty whose fortune had vanished overnight when the flagship freighter Vesper exploded at dock. Father had died in the blast, Mother's heart gave out a week later. Overnight, the Vale name became a synonym for ruin, and I was left with nothing but rumors that I had sold company secrets to a rival named Calder Blackthorne. Calder Blackthorne, tall, glacial, immaculate, was the man I had once been ordered to marry. The order had come from my half-sister, Rosalie, older by 10 months, born during Father's first marriage. Rosalie's kidneys had failed when she was 22, I was the only match. They promised me a year of marriage to Calder in exchange for one of mine. I signed, half in love already, half terrified. A year became 2, then 3, and still Rosalie thrived, while I bled in every way a person can. The night my parents died, a video surfaced, grainy, lurid, unmistakably me with a faceless lover. Calder played it for the board, for the press, for the funeral guests. Adultery, he said quietly, is vulgar, but treason is unforgivable. When he filed to annul the marriage, he froze every account I had, including the trust meant for Mother's cancer treatments. She died before dialysis could be scheduled. I was escorted out of the Vale mansion at dawn by men who once called me Miss Serafina. I lived in a windowless studio above a fish market, selling plasma by minutes on a prepaid phone. That phone rang one evening with Rosalie's laugh curling through the speaker. "I hear the docks are cold this time of year," she said. "Pity you can't afford a coat." I hung up, shaking, and that was when I noticed the second-hand coat I wore was missing the top button. A small, silver button engraved with a tiny compass rose, the Vale crest. I realized it had once been Mother's. Someone had donated it without knowing, or perhaps Rosalie had planted it, savoring the irony. 6 months later, the eviction notice arrived. The landlord wanted the space for a nail salon. I wandered the harbor until rain blurred the sodium lights into gold bruises. That was where Calder found me, black umbrella, black coat, black fury. "You're pregnant," he said. Not a question. A laboratory report dangled between us like a warrant. The child will be born in wedlock. It will carry my name. And when Rosalie's child arrives, premature, fragile, it will serve as a living donor. I ran. Calder's men dragged me back by the hair. They locked me in an attic nursery papered with faded circus animals. Each morning a nurse measured my belly with a tape that felt like a noose. Each night a doctor whispered that the fetus's heart was strong, perfect, ready. I began to dream of blood, of scalpels glinting like Rosalie's favorite earrings. Labor began during a thunderstorm. I bit through the leather strap they'd given me to stifle screams. The midwife lifted a silent, bluish girl. "Still," she murmured. A pause. Then a slap. A cry. My cry. Calder entered, face wet with rain, eyes dry as chalk. "She lives," he said. "Name her Iris." He left with the infant before I could touch her. I woke to an empty crib and a single silver button on the pillow, Mother's button, polished to a mirror. A taunt or a promise, I couldn't tell. Years folded like bad origami. Rosalie paraded a toddler she called Aurora, claiming premature birth had left the girl frail. Aurora had my eyes, Calder's chin. But the birthmark behind her ear, shaped like a crescent moon, was mine alone. I knew then, they had taken Iris and given her to Rosalie, renaming her Aurora. My own daughter had been raised to believe the woman who destroyed me was her mother. I escaped once, twice, 3 times. Calder's security grew bored with the chase. On the 4th attempt I swallowed bleach to force hospitalization. In the psychiatric ward I met Dr. Rowan Hale, a man whose kindness felt like contraband. He taught me how to hide pills beneath my tongue, how to mimic docility until the dosage was lowered. On the night I walked out wearing a stolen orderly's coat, I left Mother's button on his desk as payment. I dyed my hair copper, took the name Lila Morgan, and became a pharmaceutical rep, easy travel, plausible identities. Every city I visited, I searched schoolyards for a 7-year-old with a moon-shaped mark. In Lisbon, I found her. Aurora, no, Iris, stood in a navy uniform, arguing with a boy twice her size about constellations. She had my stubborn tilt of the head. I was close enough to smell her shampoo when Rosalie appeared, designer coat flapping like a victory flag. I retreated. I began to plan. Not vengeance, vengeance is blunt. I wanted revelation. I wanted Calder and Rosalie to taste the moment the ground tilts and everything they believed slides into the sea. The tool appeared by accident, a data analyst named Julian who adored puzzles. He unraveled the Vesper explosion for sport and found the insurance payout had been diverted to an offshore account opened in my name days before the blast. The signature was a near-perfect forgery of mine, but the notary's thumbprint belonged to Rosalie. Julian whistled. "Looks like Big Sis framed you, then married the executioner." I fed him more threads, shipping manifests, hospital records, a thumb drive lifted from Calder's briefcase during a conference in Dubai. Julian stitched them into a tapestry. Rosalie had sabotaged the Vesper to liquidate father's controlling shares, then married Calder to secure the merger that followed. My kidney, my marriage, my ruin, all collateral. I returned to the city like smoke. A new job at Blackthorn Industries under the name Lila Morgan. Calder interviewed me himself. He saw only a competent stranger with eyes the color of winter fog. Rosalie, now pregnant again, felt the tremor of familiarity but dismissed it as hormones. I smiled, filed reports, and waited. The first crack appeared at Aurora's 8th birthday. I arranged for a clown to hand her a balloon shaped like a moon. Inside was a locket holding Mother's button. Aurora opened it on the terrace while guests toasted downstairs. She ran to Rosalie, who went white. Calder demanded to know where the gift came from. The clown had vanished. The second crack was digital. I leaked fragments of the Vesper dossier to a financial blogger. Headlines bloomed: Blackthorn merger built on murder? Share prices shuddered. Calder's lawyers worked overnight, but the scent of scandal was in the wind. The final blow required blood. Mine. I arranged to meet Calder in the abandoned greenhouse where Mother once grew gardenias. He came thinking I had documents to sell. Instead, I lifted my blouse to reveal the scar, jagged, keloid, unmistakably surgical. "Recognize the handiwork?" I asked. "You took my kidney, my child, my life. Tonight you'll confess or watch your empire burn." He laughed, actually laughed, until I played the recording Julian had engineered, Rosalie's voice admitting the Vesper plot, followed by Calder's own cold calculus about using my unborn child as spare parts. I watched the color drain from his face like wine from a cracked glass. But confession was never the plan. Calder lunged, hands seeking my throat. I stepped aside. Momentum carried him through the greenhouse glass. Shards rained like clear, sharp snow. He lay bleeding among the gardenias, eyes wide with something almost like wonder. Rosalie arrived to find him unconscious, me holding the bloodied recorder. I expected fury, bargaining, denial. Instead she smiled, a slow, terrible blooming. "You think you've won," she said. "But Aurora will hate you for destroying the only mother she's ever known." She pulled from her purse a single silver button identical to Mother's. "I've collected a box of these. One for every year I planned your misery. Tonight they'll burn with you." She struck a match. Flames raced along the spilled paraffin she'd brought. In seconds the greenhouse roared orange. I ran, but not before seeing her silhouette framed in fire, arms spread as if embracing the inferno. They found Rosalie's charred remains clutching a child's locket. Calder survived but lost the use of his legs. The recordings, miraculously intact, went viral. Blackthorn Industries unraveled within weeks. Aurora, Iris, watched the footage on a tablet in her foster mother's kitchen, eyes reflecting the same moon-shaped mark behind her ear. She asked to meet me. We sat on a pier at dusk. She studied my face the way sailors read the horizon. "Are you my real mother?" she asked. I told her everything. When I finished, she placed Mother's single surviving button in my palm and closed my fingers over it. "Then let them both be dead," she said. "We're still here." The papers called it the Vale scandal, corporate sabotage, organ trafficking, identity theft. I called it Tuesday. Iris and I moved to a coastal town where no one had heard of Blackthorn or Vale. She learned to sail, I learned to breathe. Some nights I wake certain I smell bergamot tea and gardenias. I check the lock twice anyway. Just last week a postcard arrived. No return address. On the front, an old photograph of the Vesper before it burned. On the back, written in ink the color of dried blood, "Did you think fire erases fingerprints, little sister?" The game continues. Iris found me staring at it. Without a word, she took the card, struck a match, and let it fall into the sink. We watched the edges curl, the image blacken, the words disappear. Then she turned to me, eyes stead. "Next time," she said, "we don't run.